the right motivation for receiving and studying the teachings. Of all the countless living creatures throughout the vast reaches of the universe, every single one, right down to the tiniest insect, wants only to be happy and not to suffer. But none of them understand, in their search for happiness, that happiness comes only from positive action, and none of them can see, in their efforts to escape suffering, that what brings suffering upon them is negative actions. So, unwittingly, they turn their backs on happiness and plunge into suffering. To expect happiness without giving up negative action is like holding your hand in a fire and hoping not to be burned. Of course, no one actually wants to suffer, to be sick, to be cold or hungry, but as long as we continue to indulge in wrongdoing, we will never put an end to suffering. Likewise, we will never achieve happiness except through positive deeds, words, and thoughts. Positive action is something we have to cultivate ourselves. It can neither be bought nor stolen, and no one ever stumbles on it just by chance. Whatever we do involves the use of body, speech, and mind. Of these three, body and speech by themselves cannot initiate any activity. It is mind that determines everything we do and say. Mind, if we give it free rein, will just go on giving rise to more and more negative actions. And this is how we have all come to wander for countless lifetimes in samsara. In each of these countless lives in beginningless samsara, we must have had parents. In fact, we have taken birth so often that at one time or another, every single sentient being must have been our mother or father. When we think of all these beings who have been our parents wandering helplessly for so long in samsara, like blind people who have lost their way, we cannot but feel tremendous compassion for them. Compassion by itself, however, is not enough. They need actual help. But as long as our minds are still limited by attachment, just giving them food, clothing, money, or simply affection will only bring them a limited and temporary happiness at best. What we must do is to find a way to liberate them completely from suffering. This can only be done by putting the teachings of Dharma into practice. So, before you receive these precious teachings, first give rise to the appropriate motivation, which is to study and practice not merely for your own sake, but primarily to free all beings from the ocean of samsara and bring them to complete enlightenment. This is the vast and perfect attitude of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, which means the thought of enlightenment, has two aspects, one directed toward all beings and one focused on wisdom. The first aspect is compassion directed impartially toward all sentient beings, without discriminating between those who are friends and those who are enemies. With this compassion constantly in mind, we should perform every positive act, even the offering of a single lamb or the recitation of a single mantra, with the wish that it may benefit all living creatures without exception. However, to really help all beings, it is not enough just to feel compassion for them. A story often told to illustrate this tells of a mother with paralyzed arms helplessly watching her child being swept away by a river. Overwhelming though her compassion must be, it does not make it possible for her to save her drowning son. Whatever has to be done to rescue beings from suffering and bring them to enlightenment, we have to actually do it. We should understand that we have had the good fortune to be born into a world where a Buddha has come and taught the Dharma, and we have met a spiritual teacher and received his instructions. Now, it is up to us to use this precious human life to make progress on the path of liberation. It is said, human life can lead you to enlightenment. Human life can lead you to hell. Depending on our motivation and the direction we take, we could become great sages and attain Buddhahood, or we could become thoroughly evil and, when we die, go straight to hell. The teachings of the Dharma enable us to distinguish these two directions, showing us clearly what to do and what to avoid. Right now, we lack the ability to help others very much. But if everything we do is motivated by the wish to relieve their suffering, that constant aspiration will eventually be realized. Motivation channels the force of our actions, just as an irrigation canal brings water to wherever it is wanted. Everything depends on our motivation. If all we want is a long and prosperous life, then at the very best, that is all we are likely to achieve. But if we yearn to free all beings totally from samsara, we will eventually be able to fulfill that most noble intention. It is therefore very important not to direct our aspiration to lesser goals. Once, a mother and her young child were crossing a swollen and turbulent river in a small boat. Halfway across, the current became so violent that the boat was about to capsize. Sensing the imminence of disaster, the mother thought, "May my child be saved," while at the same moment the child thought, "May my mother be saved." Though the boat sank and both were drowned, the power and purity of their wishes was such that mother and child were reborn immediately in a celestial Buddha field. The second aspect of bodhicitta, the aspect focused on wisdom, is the realization of voidness in order to achieve enlightenment for the sake of others. These two bodhicittas, the skillful means of compassion and the wisdom of voidness, should never be separated. They are like a bird's two wings, both of which are necessary for it to fly. You cannot achieve enlightenment through compassion alone, nor through the realization of voidness by itself. To do something virtuous with a commonplace motive will certainly bring us some happiness, but only temporarily. Such happiness will soon be gone, and our helpless roaming in samsara will continue. If, on the other hand, everything we do, say, and think is transformed by bodhicitta, our happiness will go on, increasing and never be exhausted. The fruit of actions motivated by bodhicitta, unlike that of positive actions done with less noble motives, can never be destroyed by anger or other negative emotions. Whatever we do, therefore, it is the mind that is most important. This is why the Buddhist teachings focus on perfecting the mind. The mind is king, and body and speech are servants which must do its bidding. It is the mind that conceives faith and the mind that conceives doubt. It is the mind that conceives love and the mind that conceives hatred. So look within and check your motivation, for that is what determines whether what you do is positive or negative. Mind is like a transparent crystal which takes on the color of whatever cloth it rests on. Yellow on a yellow cloth, blue on a blue cloth, and so forth. Likewise, your attitude colors the mind, and this determines the true character of your actions, no matter how they may appear. The nature of this mind is not something remote and unknowable. It is always immediately present. Yet, if you look at how it is, you do not find something red, yellow, blue, white, or green. It is not square or round, nor is it shaped like a bird, or a monkey, or anything else. The mind is simply that which conceives and remembers countless thoughts. If the current of thoughts is virtuous, you have tamed the mind. If it is negative, you have not. Taming the mind and making it positive needs perseverance. Never think the Buddha is fully enlightened and Chenrezig is the very embodiment of compassion. But how could an ordinary person like me ever help others? Do not be discouraged. As your motivation grows more and more vast, your capacity for positive action will expand too. You may not have the same ability as Chenrezig right now, but the way to develop it is to practice the Dharma. If you maintain the constant wish to benefit others, the power to actually do so will come by itself, as naturally as water runs downhill.